Hi there, I'm Susan Duplan, and this is my video application for Green School Visual Arts, primary visual arts teacher. So we'll start with the first question that you have, and I'll just adjust this a little bit, bring it back a little bit so you can see all of me. The first one is outline my current philosophy. My current philosophy is on education is an integrated arts education, and it's not a current one. I've believed this now for well over 30 years. I believe that that kind of education develops children that become, grow up into adults who are not afraid of experimentation. They're not afraid to fail. They have more confidence in their ideas and their imagination. They're very good problem solvers because that whole creative process involves that, right? And also they're very good at cooperation and cooperating with other people who are creative because they understand that process. So I believe firmly in an integrated arts education, and then tying it in with other subjects. It's a great way to learn. It creates individuals who are then all of those things I just mentioned that can benefit not only themselves personally, but their families and their communities and society. The next question is briefly outline which educational leaders are shaping your current lifelong learning and practice. I would say Sir Ken Robinson. Everything that he says I firmly believe in, and again have believed in for many, many years, even before I knew about Sir Ken Robinson. And I believe that creativity is extremely important to the human being, and that our systems, as they are at the moment throughout the world, our educational systems, actually squelch the child's creativity. And so that's who I really admire and look up to. The next question would be, describe how you create a compelling desire in your students to learn, behave, cooperate, and flourish. That one, I would have one word for that, and that would be passion. So with my students, put down my orange glasses here for a minute. With my students, I would find out from the very first time they were in my classes what it is they were really passionate about. What was it that they really wanted to draw or paint or sculpt? And then we would work from that, and all the other elements of art and the teachings would come into play with what it is they wanted to say, because that's how you really make art. An artist makes art, whether it be dance or music or visual art or literature, based on what they're really passionate about. And so they were encouraged actually to bring in their own subject matter, which was kind of interesting sometimes. So once you are able to find out what that child is passionate about, and it usually doesn't take long to find out from a child, then they behave and they flourish and they cooperate. So that is the key. The next question is, describe how you have demonstrated extensive practical expertise in establishing effective and progressive teaching and learning frameworks and programs. I would have to say, and you'll be able to see from my CV, it was from my art school that I had a number of programs. The frameworks were very exploratory, sometimes thematic, sometimes experiential. And the success of the students wanting to come to my classes, I think, and then go on to either become artists themselves or art teachers or use that in their lives and their professions, I think perhaps would show that I had done something correct. Okay, the next question is, describe something of which you're most proud of accomplishing in your professional experience. Okay, just talking about teaching, because I'm very proud of my accomplishments as a professional artist, but in terms of teaching art, it would have to be, I'm very proud of my students. I mean, sure, I could cite other things, but that to me is the thing that is the most heartfelt. I have so much time to do this, but one student in particular who was born as a thalidomide baby, and she is now fairly well known as a mouth painter. And she also created a Christmas stamp that Canadians used across the country a number of years ago. So her name is Susie Matthias, and I'm very proud of her and all my other students. The next question is briefly provide an example of experience in leading major change in sustainable or progressive education. And well, again, I would have to mention what I did with what I was doing in my classes back when I ran them back in London, Ontario. Discuss your capacity to contribute to the holistic development of the students through the support of the school's extracurricular programs. Well, that's very exciting. I don't have any problem with that at all, and I think I love to camp. I love the water. I love nature, and one of the things I can see myself doing, besides supporting what's already in place, would be, you know, drawing plein air, creating things for festivals, maybe sets for theater and so on and so forth. So I don't have any problem doing that. It would be great fun. Now the next one is describe a time when you had to deal with an issue that required resilience and detail the approach you took with the situation. I had a child, a young lad, in my summer art camp. He was about 4 or 5, and he came from a very demonstrative family, and he wanted to hug everyone. And that was actually okay with everyone except for one little girl who wasn't used to this at all. So with the parents' help, and of course myself, I had to very carefully and very delicately have a chat with him. And I didn't want to say anything to him that would suppress his love. He was just a very loving boy. But I had to explain to him how people had certain boundaries. You know, I happened to draw circles for him and pictures of people, and just explain to him how some people don't like you coming in really close, and it had nothing to do with him so much as them. So he went away happy, and it was all fixed up. He didn't hug her anymore, but he still was able to feel good about who he was and display his loving nature. So that would be the example I'd use for that one. My experience and preferred format for working in a classroom with a co-teacher is organic. I like it so that we can feed off of each other. I don't really like, okay, you do this and I do that. And I like it so that we're feeding off of each other as well as the students, so that it spirals and grows. My most favorite example of that was a weekend that I did. I was asked to be the visual arts facilitator for Dr. Havelka's creativity weekend at the University of Western Ontario many years ago. And as I say, I was the visual arts coordinator. And then we had someone with voice. We had a musician, we had a dancer, and we had a psychologist. And what happened in that classroom over the weekend was phenomenal. They were all adults, and they created this incredible fantasy world out of paper and paints with giant caterpillars and floating stars and planets, and spontaneous song and chanting that all happened in a group, and dance. It was really a pleasure to do it. And there was one woman who had been a child in Berlin during the Second World War, and this weekend was extremely transformational for her. It was a very important weekend. The next question, and I believe the last one, is discuss or submit a creative idea using only bamboo. Well, I'm very excited about this one. I was thinking of, and you're probably already working on part of this anyway, the Green School Bamboo Orchestra and Performance Art Troupe. So first of all, with regard to the instruments, and I noted that you've taken the children to see a musician in Bali who is making instruments from bamboo. But you know, depending on the age of the child, you could get the whole school involved if you wanted. They can make one-string instruments. The more senior students, perhaps flutes. And then there is actually a bamboo orchestra. You can look them up, where they use very large pieces of bamboo, and they use them like drums. They they've got little spatulas that they hit them with and they pound them, and I think young children could actually handle that very well, and there's a dance involved with it. So you would have that, but you'd also have performance arts. So for example, there would be bamboo paper that could be made, and the children using paints and dance could make art on the paper. You could have poems written by the students, songs written by the students. You could of course have puppets made out of bamboo paper as well as bamboo structure. And the theme, and it could all be happening at once, or not. Some of it could be happening at once or not. So it could go on for some time. It could take place, I'll come back to the theme in a minute, I'm getting excited. It could take place maybe in your mud pit, especially when you hear the theme, or on the playing field, or in the nearby bamboo forest. But the theme could be, this is just a suggestion, could be the Balinese creation myth. And that's why I mentioned the mud pit, so that makes so much sense. The beauty of this is, of doing this kind of work, is it demonstrates to the students that this is how artists work. They use indigenous materials, not all of them, but a lot of them do, indigenous beliefs and societal mores in their area, and they work with those to create their interpretation, not the traditional version of the Balinese creation myth, but their interpretation as young artists of that myth. So anyway, that's actually my video segment for the application for the primary visual arts teacher for Green School. I would be honored. I would be very honored to be there. I really feel I could make a difference. Thank you so much.